Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 10th episode of Life According to Nikki.
Are we kidding? Oh my gosh, I love that.
You guys, we're in double digits. This is a very exciting day because I promised myself that I would hard launch this podcast once I got to 10 episodes. So up until this point, it has been very limited, the people that know about this. I'm just really excited and nervous to share it with everybody because, I have a lot less control that way over who listens to this and whether or not they're offended by it. But I have hope that it's gonna be good. That I'm gonna find some people that enjoy what I have to say and we can just chat it up. You can DM me your opinions. It's totally okay if you have different opinions than mine. I mean, obviously, I can't be someone with this many opinions and so many hills I'll die on and not respect that you also have your own. Even if they are complete opposite to mine, I will plant my flag, I'll look over at your hill, and we will salute each other in respect. Because at the end of the day, none of what we talk about on here truly matters. Being nice and a kind person, that's what matters. You can have your opinion and I'll have mine, but when it's all said and done, what matters most to me is that people have a good time. We can laugh, we can respect each other. This is just an open space for you to think whatever you want to think. For today's episode, it's going to be a bit different than normal because I never did a bio episode. I recorded about 5 different bio episodes that I was going to release first, obviously, but then I was just not feeling it. It's a little awkward giving background on yourself, especially knowing full well that every person listening already knows you. It's like, they don't really need to rehash the details. But I feel like at this point in time, maybe, just maybe, there might be people on here that don't know who I am, that have not met me in person, and even though I fully believe that you can get to know me through my opinions and through all the episodes, I figured I would give at least a little bit of a bio today for anybody that cares to know a little bit more about me. Something you gotta know off the bat, my original title for this podcast was Makes No Sense on Paper. That was what I was going to call this because I think that sentence describes me the best. I make no frickin' sense on paper, especially if you are from Utah. Yeah, good luck. I live my life in what seems like polar opposite dimensions, but as you get to know me, you see that, guys, it is possible to live in the middle. I mean, I was raised on Hannah Montana, and she's saying to me every week, you can have the best of both worlds. And I really took that to heart. And I was like, you know what? Why limit myself? Why put myself in a box when I enjoy things in a lot of different places? And it's also allowed me to open up myself to a lot of different types of people, which is something that I really love. I am a people person. I truly believe that I was made to connect with a lot of different individuals on this earth, and you can't do that if you only fit into one little section. So here are just some of the boxes that I check. I was born and raised in Utah. I'm a Utah girly through and through. I once had someone tell me, you are exactly what I would picture someone from Utah looking like and acting like. And I want you to know, I took that as the greatest compliment. I love being a Utah girl. I love the aesthetic of being this bubbly, happy person. I truly am that way. That is my personality type. And I love where I'm from. I love the mountains, the overly nice people, and the somewhat problematic culture. There's a lot about it that I connect with, okay? But as you saw right there, I do see a lot of issues with it as well, okay? I'm not just some person that will sit back and not say when I see a problem. I'm not ignorant to that. I'm not oblivious to it. I don't ignore it. But I try and be the best that I can be within it. So obviously, one of the boxes that I check is I am an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There is nothing that makes me happier than trying to be like Jesus. Truly. I just want to be a good person, which is, what I think a lot of people would assume, right? But where I start to confuse people is the other boxes that I check, like my choice in career. I am a sex educator, which doesn't make a lot of sense to people because I am a very proud virgin. And they look at it and they go, how does that work? I am sure we will get into the details of how that all works. But just know, if male gynecologists can make it work, so can I. I am an educator. What's that age-old saying? Those who can't do, teach? Yeah, I embody that, all right? And I guarantee you, if you are a very sexually active person, that you would be shocked that you can learn something from me, okay? Because I have no personal bias getting in the way of my learning. I love learning about sex. I know, it's weird. It is very taboo, especially within a religious context. And I think that that's why I like it so much. I enjoy tackling the taboo. I don't understand why it has to be that way. These are not hidden things to God. So why are we pretending like they have to be to us? Anyways, I could go on and on the soapbox that is sex education and the lack of it here in Utah County and how wrong I believe that is. It is literally ruining lives, and I see it every single day. But I am here to help, along with a bunch of other really awesome people. So I work in a sex store, and I also work for a sex therapy practice as their sex educator. So people can set appointments with me. They fill out a big worksheet that I have, and I create lesson plans based on what they want to learn. And what's nice about it is I am just here to give information, and I love doing my job. I really do. I like creating a safe space for people to talk about this topic. And I think the fact that I'm a virgin and that surprises a lot of people honestly breaks down so many more walls that I would never be able to get past if I was in any other circumstance, especially in Utah County. There are so many single people in Utah County that want to talk about this, especially women. I run into them literally every day that just want to have conversations and want to learn. And there aren't a lot of accessible things in this space for religious people. And that is something that I feel very passionate about, and I'm trying to make more accessible. I have big future plans with this, you guys. I am sure you'll hear more about it in the future. But just know that it confuses everybody. All right? If you're confused, join the club. They're singing in the choir over there. A lot of people don't get it, and yet they're all so surprised when I open my mouth and I start stating facts and studies and all this stuff. And they're like, oh, wow, you really know your stuff. Well, duh, I study. I mean, a doctor doesn't have to break their arm to know how to fix it, Ugh, guys, I could just go on and on about this, but I won't. Other boxes that I check. I teach chair dancing, dirty dancing, every Tuesday night. Come check me out. I teach in Orem, Harmony Fitness. It's very fun. And I think it's kind of funny because I am also disabled. Are you seeing how I make no sense? Yeah, I only have about 10% feeling in both of my legs. And 2 years ago, I fully believed to my core that I couldn't dance. And that was my New Year's resolution, is I wanted to change that story. I truly believe that we are all here writing our story. So if you are writing a version of your story where you are not the main character, you are writing it wrong. And if you are writing sentences and things in your story that just aren't true, like for me, it was I can't dance. That was just this narrative that I had for so long. And I realized, why am I writing that? Why? I don't want to believe that. That's not the story I want to tell. So I rewrote it. I went and I took dance lessons. I started with pole dancing, which I'm now absolutely obsessed with, and I have a pole in my apartment. I then got into chair dancing because with my disability, it seemed a lot more doable than something else. It was such a journey, but I'm so happy to see where I landed, and I can say with full confidence, your girl can dance. All right, I may not be busting a move in a rave, but you give me a pole, I can be pretty impressive. You give me a chair and a very safe environment, then yeah, I got a little something to offer. I am a grown woman, so I really believe that finding healthy ways to express your sexuality that feel within your values is very important. And this is the way that I found works for me. It makes me feel really fulfilled and happy and beautiful and sexy, and those are all really good things, and I don't feel like I'm crossing any personal lines of where my values lie. That may be different for some other people, okay? I am not here to preach that you have to do things a certain way. If anything, it is the opposite of that message that I'm trying to get across. You've got to figure out what works for you. For me, it's talking to Heavenly Father every single day and working out with Him what feels good and appropriate for me. I really love chair dancing. I love pole dancing. I think they are beautiful. I've done lyra, silks, dabbled in a few other circus apparatuses. I get that it doesn't make sense to a lot of people, especially, should I say, the older generation. But, at the end of the day, I am super happy, and I think that matters a lot. If nothing else, I'm not boring. I mean, I love the reaction that I get when people walk into our apartment, because you immediately see the pole and you're like, okay. And then you look around and you see Jesus everywhere. I mean, I've got the prettiest pictures of Jesus up in our apartment. I mean, for anybody that's wondering how my pole got up in my apartment, I asked my ministering brother to install it for me. Don't get it twisted. I asked him at church. For those that don't know what a ministering brother is, in my church, you have people assigned to you to just help you. You have 2 women and 2 men. So if you ever need anything, those are kind of your first contacts. Obviously, you can call your friends and stuff, but we are a very giving, service-oriented community. Especially being single, it's really nice to have 2 guys assigned to you, because anytime I need furniture built, well, honestly, I call my friend Jamie because she's incredible. But if she's not available, I'll just call up my ministering brothers. So yeah, I asked him at church if he would come and install my pole for me. He did a great job. Shout out to Tyson. And at the time that it was installed, I was in the Relief Society presidency. So again, it's not making sense on paper, but it doesn't have to, guys. I make it work. You can be anybody you want to be, is what I'm trying to get at. You guys, I could go on all day about these polar opposite ideas that don't seem to mix and how I am in both categories, but I thought what would be easiest to really explain myself and give a full overview bio of me would be to do it one day style. The series that I watched a few weeks back, One Day, highly recommend. The show has each episode being a single day each year. And I thought, why don't I do my bio that way? I will do today's date, March 4th, from 2017 up until now, so you can kind of get a background on what I've done with my life and who I am. Are we ready? Let's do it. Let's take us back to March 4th, 2017. I am serving as a full-time proselyting sister missionary in Fresno, California. I'm wandering the streets, going up to every single person that I see and asking them how they are and if they would like to learn about Jesus, and honestly just having a really good time. I did not want to serve a mission. In fact, that was quite possibly the last thing I ever wanted to do when I was a teenager. I was very much done with my religion by the time I was 16, and I had every intention of living a very different lifestyle once I graduated from high school. But my senior year, I had a really life-changing event. I'm sure I'll get into it at some point, but really the course of my life changed completely my senior year, and it was very heavily due to my seminary teacher, Shayna Haig. She literally changed my life, and I found a lot of happiness and joy that I was missing for a long time. And by the time I was 19, I just really wanted to share my experience with other people. I just felt like if I could share a little bit of the happiness that I had with somebody else and do some good in the world and serve other people, that would be a really good thing for my life. And I'm very glad that I did go on a mission. Do not get me wrong, but missions are tough. And I have a lot of mixed feelings about mine. I think the best way to describe my mission experience is through an analogy. I am an analogy girl. That is how I think. That is the way my brain works. I need some imagery. And years after I got home, I was talking to a therapist about just the complicated feelings that I had about my experience. In a lot of ways, I felt like I was unprepared for the emotional toll that a mission took and how difficult it truly was. And there were a lot of things that happened that I don't agree with and that I think were wrong. And I was just trying to kind of figure those feelings out. And at the time when I was telling my therapist this, I came up with the imagery of a mission being a bundle of a dozen roses. And I felt like all growing up, people would talk about their missions at church, and we would have people come home and they would talk about how beautiful these roses were. Oh, look at them. They're so gorgeous. They're this vibrant red color and they smell amazing. Aren't they pretty? And I felt like we were only looking at a top view. We were only being shown the bulbs of the flowers blooming and how beautiful they looked aesthetically. But when you zoom the camera out and you lower it, you see that there are hands holding on to the stems, and all of those thorns are causing blood to run down the arms of the person holding them. That was how I felt about my mission. It was this beautiful thing, but it caused me a lot of hurt and a lot of tiny nicks. I felt in a very big way that I had been bleeding for so long and no one was recognizing that. No one saw the hurt that this beauty caused me. And I had a lot more empathy for people that come home from their mission and they leave this church, this religion. In a way, I understand. Because for some, those cuts were so deep. And I understand how that can happen because I definitely experienced that. And during this time after I got home and was discussing this with my therapist, he was asking me what I wanted to do with my roses. If I wanted to throw them in the trash or if I wanted to do something with them, because holding them and continuing to bleed from these thorns was not helping me. So I prayed about this and I decided that for me, I wanted to keep my roses, but I didn't want to hold them anymore. I wanted them to go in a beautiful glass vase where everyone could see the thorns, and I'm not shy about saying, yes, these roses are beautiful and they bring a lot to my life and I love having them in my home, but I want you to see that those thorns are also there, that those hurt me when I was holding them. I wish that someone would have given me some gloves. And I think it's important that I give that perspective, because if we don't talk about the thorns and the things that hurt us, then it can really take away from the beauty that is there. And when you're aware of what can hurt you, you can also be a little bit more prepared and bring some gloves. And that was what I felt like I was lacking. No one told me that I needed gloves, and there were a lot of things that I wish I would have had them for. But for me, now in my life, I'm really grateful for what my mission taught me and my experiences that I had, the beautiful people that I was able to meet. And because of that, you will hear me talk about my mission. And sometimes I'll focus on the beautiful roses and how great they smell and how aesthetically pleasing they are. But also know I'm not afraid to talk about the things that were problematic and that did really hurt me. We can just bring light to a lot of different aspects of things, because I don't think there is just one side to a story. I think there are many sides to a story. And again, going back to my you write your own story analogy, you decide what's going to be written as your version. And for me, mine is a beautiful combination of both the heartwarming, amazing experiences that I had, the ones that I do not regret at all, and the pain that some things out of my control caused me during that time. Now, when I talk about pain in this aspect, I think a lot of people will assume that I'm talking about physical pain, and I'm not. I'm definitely talking about psychological and emotional, but I was also in physical pain on my mission. In February, I started experiencing pain in what felt like my hips. I wasn't sure what was wrong. I'd had 2 knee surgeries back when I was 16 years old because my knees dislocate and I had to relearn how to walk. They moved my kneecap into a new spot on both of my knees. So I thought that maybe my knees were causing some sort of problem, like I was walking weird or something, and it was causing an issue in my hips. So in March at this time, I was starting to see the doctor and a physical therapist to try and resolve my issue because I would just wake up in so much pain, but then after a couple hours it would go away. It was very weird and I wasn't quite sure what was going on. I had entered the field in January. I was just eager and having a great time on March 4th, 2017. Fast forward to March 4th, 2018. I am now back home in Lehigh, Utah, preparing for my surgery that I'm going to get. Turns out I had a tumor that was growing inside of my spinal cord. It is very rare. The tumor that I had, there's only 4 other documented cases. There is a little episode on Grey's Anatomy where someone had a similar tumor. It's in season 2. That's like my one clout that I get. But I want you to know I didn't get any money from any of this, and it pisses me off to this day. Because, hello, I grew that tumor myself. I feel like I should get some credit for advancing the medical world or something. But anyways, in March, I was preparing for surgery. I was in a ton of pain, and at that point, I couldn't feel my legs. Now, when I say this, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, so you couldn't walk? No, I could still walk. I just couldn't feel my legs. You know when you sleep on your arm wrong and you wake up and your arm is just completely dead? I mean, you can straighten it, you can move it, but you don't have feeling? That was my legs. But on top of all of that, I had very intense pain in my low back and in my hips. It was just unbearable. So as nervous as I was to have surgery, anything was going to be better than the pain that I was in. I had come home from my mission right after my year mark in January, and I had been going to doctors all the way up until March, but I was turned away by some doctors because of how large my tumor was and its location inside my spinal cord. It was very dangerous. There was about an 87% chance that there was going to be permanent paralysis of my legs. So I had neurosurgeons telling me, no, I will not do your surgery because the risk was too high. I ended up going with the best surgeon in Utah for my surgery. I was very lucky for that. Instead of having one, I did end up having 2 surgeries back to back. It was one of the worst experiences of my entire life. I will get into it on another episode and give you an entire breakdown of that entire process. Do not have back surgery if you can avoid it. It was horrible. If you're a medical person, my tumor was located between L2 and L3 vertebrae-wise. They had to shave off 35% of one of my vertebrae in order to get access to my spinal cord to remove the tumor. Now, for some perspective, my surgeon said that if there was a pea-sized tumor inside my spinal cord, that would have to be removed, and that would cause severe pain and possible nerve damage. Mine was the size of 2 Costco grapes on top of one another. I'm going to put the pictures of my tumor on the Instagram because my surgeon did in fact take some selfies during the surgery. Okay, I don't know about selfies, but he did take photos because it was very exciting. It was super rare. So for medical personnel, it was a very big day for them. For me, it was miserable, but I'm happy that they got their pictures. You'll see in the photos, there's going to be this big gray blob. That was my tumor. The 2 end photos, I think, show why I have nerve damage the best. The first photo, you're going to see my nerves kinked like a hose that's folded in half. And then in the second photo, it's without the tumor, what they're supposed to look like. So as a result of this wonderful thing inside of my body that cut off the nerves to my legs, I have about 1.5 inches of nerves in my spinal cord that are dead because they were kinked like a hose for over a year. So when I say I can't really feel my legs, I don't really have sensation that's able to jump past that dead section of nerves. I can still move my legs. It actually took me quite a while to walk without a limp and to not have an obvious disability, but I worked really hard at that, and I live my life every single day in very intense pain, and the problems that it caused my back, I deal with that every single day, even 5 years later. But I have what's called an invisible disability because you can't see my pain. Unless I limp in front of you, you would probably never know that there's a problem with me. I can't sit for very long periods of time in certain chairs, so a lot of times you'll find me in a back corner standing up if I'm at church or in just a long meeting. When I go to the movie theater, I have basically my entire bedding that I bring. I have to bring like 4 different pillows and all sorts of stuff, and I can almost never get comfortable. All of my friends are just absolutely incredible because I must be the most annoying person on the planet because I never sit still. I am constantly fidgeting, constantly moving my legs or my back or swaying back and forth just to manage my pain. There are a lot of things that I can't do that you would only know if we're close. If you see me on a daily basis, then yeah, you're gonna see that I have a disability. But if you just see me in passing or we're just casual friends, most people don't know that I have this issue. So on March 4th, 2018, I was preparing for what was going to be a very long year of recovery. After surgery, I could only sit up for 20 minutes a day for an entire month, and then the second month was 40 minutes a day, and then we increased time from there. I went from being completely independent, living on my own, to moving back in with my parents and my mom having to be my caretaker. I couldn't shower, couldn't go to the bathroom. I needed help with everything. There is nothing quite as humbling as being an able-bodied person and having that taken away. So to anybody that has chronic pain and that lives their life with a disability that no one else sees, I just want you to know I am a very proud member of the Invisible Disability Club, and I am here with you. It sucks so bad, but there is light at the end of the day that I see, and there's a lot of happiness that I believe can be found in any single circumstance. Moving on now to March 2019. We are in China. Shanghai, China. And yes, it is pronounced Shanghai, not Shanghai. That was beaten into me. And now I am that annoying American that comes back and is like, oh, actually, it's pronounced this way. Yeah, I'm that person now because let me tell you, so many people corrected me that I can't say it the other way now. It is Shanghai. You feel free to say Shanghai. I'm not going to correct you, but just know in your heart, I'm going to stick with the Shanghai pronunciation until the day I die. All right? You don't get humiliated that many times to just let that go. I went to China for a lot of different reasons. I felt very strongly that I needed to figure out who I was now as a disabled person. I had a completely new body and pain every single day, and just mentally, I was in a different place than I had ever been, but on the outside, I looked the same and I acted the same, so no one really knew how different I truly was. And that was just hard to navigate, where everyone treats you the same and assumes you're the same, but you are a completely different person. And I just needed to figure out who that new person was, this person with a disability. And I'm so grateful that I got this opportunity. I'm going to be honest, I never wanted to go to Asia before. That was never on my bucket list. I was having lunch with my seminary teacher from high school, and I was telling her about this desire that I had to maybe go abroad and do something fun and kind of rediscover myself. That's when she told me that her brother actually owned a school in China. That's how I got hooked up with Elliot, who is Meg's cousin from my previous episodes. At that time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do just elementary education or if I wanted to do special education. And I thought, before I commit to 4 years of school, how about I go test it out and actually actually see if I even want to be a teacher at all before I decide what I'm gonna do. The job was paid and it was just this incredible opportunity. But my final reason for going and what really got me to commit, I had watched a broadcast from our prophet, President Russell M. Nelson, and it was a youth devotional that he gave, but I happened to watch it. In the devotional, he said that we should make friends with the people of China. He has an amazing history and past with the people in China, and he was encouraging the youth to create relationships with Chinese people. When I heard that, I just had a very strong impression that that was something that I could do. I could follow the prophet in this way. That was kind of what took me over the edge, and I had full confidence that it was going to be a good experience. I promise I will talk more about it and the lead up to it and if I was nervous or not. But in March 2018, I was living in China. I had moved into my apartment. Meg, I think, was going to be arriving any day. I was so unbelievably happy and starting to discover who I am as an adult and what kind of person I wanted to be religiously. This was a very big turning point for me in discovering how I was going to live my religion without, the influence of my parents and my mission and everything like that. Who did I want to be and what kind of values did I really have? All of these decisions were really made and discovered in China. All right, next up we have March 2020. This is COVID times. I'm living in Provo, Utah, the one place I said I would never live because I am not a BYU girl. I went to UVU, let's be clear, and I was taking my classes. I took some back in 2018 when I was still recovering from my back surgery, but now I was full-time student, taking my classes, getting my associate's degree. My experience in China helped me decide that I wanted to be a special education major, but what I ultimately wanted was to be a behavioral analyst for children with autism. And UVU had this awesome program where you could get your autism studies minor, but you could also get the certification. If you did all this extra work and all this stuff, you would be able to have all of the credits needed and the hours that you would need in order to take the board certification test to become what is called BCABA, which stands for Board Certified Assistant Behavior Analyst. And this was what I really wanted to do. I wanted to work for a company that had children with autism coming in or do in-home where I could work individually with families and with these kids. It was my dream and I was really working towards it at this time, fully believing that this was going to be my career path. Fast forwarding to March 2021, I am not doing well. During this time, 2 of my friends died in a car accident in December of 2020. I am just in the throes of grief. I had to take a semester off of school because I just emotionally needed a break. I truly know in my heart that I will see my friends again. But grief is such an interesting thing. It is just so hard when you go from knowing someone and talking to them for so long to nothing overnight. And my 2 friends that passed away, one of them I met on my mission. His name is Jake. Just the most incredible human. His family was in my area and we became really good friends because he was preparing to go on his mission. So he would come and teach with us. We were teaching some local teenagers in his area. So he would be with us a couple times a week. He was just such a powerhouse of a person, had such a light about him. And when I moved to Provo in 2020, he was working right across the street from my apartment building as a phlebotomist at the Plasma Center. He was newer to Utah and I invited him to hang out with me and all my friends. It was just the most amazing time. I know that COVID was really, really difficult for a lot of people and had a lot of heartache. For me, I had a very different experience. Not only living in Utah, the rules were pretty lax, but I had Jake, who worked right across the street, and then my friend Maddie, who I had been friends with since 3rd grade. We had just been best friends for so long, and she was one of those friends that you never really argue with. You know, like you agree on all of the things that are important to agree on, and the things that you disagree on don't matter, and you love that the other person loves something you don't like. You know what I mean? She was my number one hype girl. Even though I had been traveling and doing all of these things, and this entire time she had been going to college in BYU, Idaho, we used the app Marco Polo to send video messages to each other about 3 times a week. Sometimes it was every day, always in constant contact with her. She wrote me while I was on my mission. I mean, she was just one of the greatest friends that I had. We had been friends for so many years that we just knew each other on such a deep level. You know, we just had so many shared experiences in high school and just all different phases of life. I just love her with all of my heart. And I was so excited because she had just graduated from BYU, Idaho, and moved to Provo, 2 buildings up from mine. So during 2020, when everything was shut down during COVID, me, Maddie, Jake, and my roommates, we would spend every single day together. We were just basically quarantined together for months on end. We would spend 12 hours together, stay up till 3 in the morning. I mean, it was just the time of my life. And I called it, and my roommate Felicity can attest that before they met, I knew that they were gonna date. I was like, oh, they are the flirtiest people I know. They're both really hot. Like, for sure they're gonna get together. Eventually, it was a long time that they flirted with each other, and it was a will they, won't they situation. But in December, Maddie told me that they were dating officially, and I was so happy for them. I was so excited for them, and that was actually the last time that I saw them in person, was when they told me. 2 weeks later, a week before Christmas, they very unfortunately passed away in a car accident. That was just a really defining moment for me. Oh, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. You just never think that something like that can happen to people that you know. That happens to other people. It doesn't happen to you. It was just really hard for me to go from talking to my friend every other day, venting all of my struggles and my heartache to her, and her supporting me and me supporting her, and just having that go away. And not only having it be one person, but having it be 2 people, having this complete other relationship with Jake. It was just very complicated for me, and is still slightly complicated when I think about them, because they are 2 totally different people, and I had completely different relationships with them, but they both died, and my grief for them is not the same. It is very individual. To me, it is impossible to combine my sadness for them because they're just so different, and they are both heartbreaking to me. So during this time in March, I was still grieving so much. It doesn't just go away 2 weeks after everyone else forgets about it. I mean, your entire life is changed when someone you love dies, and especially when 2 people die. It is just so complicated. I was in the throes of that in March, just trying to figure out what my life looked like now with this grief being added to it. And during that time, it was just thoughts of, is this ever gonna look different? Is it ever not gonna feel so heavy and heartbreaking? And am I ever gonna stop crying in the bathroom at work in between clients and not be triggered by a song or a smell or someone saying something randomly and it makes me think of them? Am I ever gonna get to a place where it's not like that? That was where I was in March 2021. Oh man, it was a tough time. But I do want it stated that even though I was going through a lot of grief and heartache, there was also a lot of happiness during that time too that I discovered because of my grief. Just so you all know, talking about Maddie and Jake is not a touchy subject for me. I may get emotional, sure. They were amazing people and I love them so much and I miss them so deeply. But talking about them and joking, morbid humor is definitely my type of humor. Those are all things that I'm very comfortable with. Just know they will get brought up. They are a very big part of my life, and their deaths were very big to me. It has not been the same. I have learned so much because of their passing that I could never go back to the person that I was before December 17th, 2020. And if you've ever lost someone, you know exactly what I mean by that. Okay, we're gonna move on to March 2022. I have bleach blonde hair from my time in the Virgin Islands. I did my semester from August to December of 2021. I'm back home. I am now living in Orem, and I'm finishing up my degree. I'm very excited for the trajectory I'm on. I'm gonna be a behavioral analyst, working with children with autism. Everything is set. Things are great. But little do I know, just a short month from now, I am going to lose my program accreditation. My 4 years of school are about to be a complete waste of my time. No, that's not true. But it felt that way. I was in my final semester, my final class that was going to get me all of my credits so that way I could get my hours and take the board certification test like I had planned. But very unfortunate for me, if we rewind, remember when I took that semester off to grieve? And remember when I took a semester at the end of that year to go to the Virgin Islands and I took classes there? During those times, there were emails sent out to the students of the program warning you that, hey, there's going to be a change in accreditation starting in 2022. You have to get all of your credits before then locked in, or else you can't take the board certification test because it's not going to count. All of your credits no longer count with their new standards that they have. Well, when I was in the Virgin Islands, I had to switch my email over to be a Virgin Islands student email because Outlook is the dumbest email platform on earth, and they will not let you have two student account emails. So I had to switch mine over, and I did not get the memo. I missed it. Because I was grieving my friends one semester and because I was in the Virgin Islands living it up on a beach thinking that all was going to be okay in the world. I did not find out until I was in my final class. I went up to my professor and I was asking her, hey, so what's the timeline for taking the board certification test? You know, I want to make sure that I'm not missing any due dates. Oh man, imagine me, a type A that never procrastinates, finding this information out, being like, oh, you didn't hear? You missed it. Now, if you want this certification, you have to retake all of these classes, which you can do by getting a master's degree and doing it all over again. I will put the video of me finding out this information because it was quite funny. It was something else. She told me, and then I talked to everyone under the sun and made my way up to, like the dean or whatever of the program. And ultimately, there was nothing they could do. They couldn't grandfather me in. These were national standards that were changed, and the classes that I took no longer have accreditation with the new standard. There was nothing I could do. I can't get my money back. I was just screwed. Like, too bad, so sad. You can get a master's, but anything beyond that, we can't help you with, was what they told me. Oh man, that was a hard pill to swallow, but it was also hilarious. I mean, truly, who has that happen? Who goes to college, has an entire plan, gets straight A's? Guys, I put so much work into that, only to find out in my last class that it was all for nothing. So happy I could take away the knowledge, but I'm not going to get the certification or, pay that certification would have given me. Yeah, all down the drain. And now the only option I have is to go to more school. And at that point, I was so done with school, I couldn't even handle it. So I did what I always do, and I recorded my reaction to the news. I will post that on the Instagram because it was funny. I think I should have been more upset by it, but I found it to be the most hilarious situation. It was almost like it felt good because there's always these options that you have, right? Should I take this path or should I take this path? And you have that age-old saying of when one door closes, another one opens. Well, my door very clearly slammed in my frickin' face. It was like standing in line for a ride for 4 years. You finally get to it, you hand over your ticket, and they're like, oh, sorry, we actually are closing this ride for maintenance permanently. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. It really was. There's no other word for it. Was it disappointing? Sure. But I am just such a firm believer that Heavenly Father directs my life. that there is a plan for me, and he very clearly needed me to go in a different direction that I was avoiding going in for so long that he had no other option. He had to slam that door in my face because I had had this desire to be a sex educator from the moment I started college. Even in high school, I wanted to be like a high school health teacher or something like that. I had always been interested in this topic. I was always scared of what other people would think about that, especially in Utah. I was like, I can't do this. I'm a virgin. No one's gonna listen to me, and it's gonna be seen as weird, and people aren't gonna like it, or they're gonna think bad things of me at church, and had a lot of these ideas in my head of why I couldn't do it. And when that door slammed in my face, let me tell you, it was the most refreshing moment ever because I did not care anymore. I was like, fine, you can't fire me. I quit. Yes, there were so many things that I was really enjoying about autism studies, and there's a very big part of me that still thinks that somewhere down the road I could do something in that, because I did find it very enjoyable to learn about. But my passions were leading me in another direction. This was the push that I needed because I literally had nothing to lose at that point. And the cherry on top of it all is I was planning on doing a semester in Belgium with an autism studies professor. We were going to do research together. It was going to be amazing. I was getting everything ready, and lo and behold, a short couple weeks afterwards, I get a phone call that professor that I was going to do all of this research with decided to go on sabbatical for the semester that I was going to go abroad. It wasn't just one door that slammed, it was every single door to the autism world that slammed shut. I was like, okay, well, what should I do now? And they told me, well, Switzerland wants you. And I thought, yeah, sure, I'll move to the most expensive country in Europe. Why not? Which takes us to March 2023. I am in Geneva, Switzerland, living my best life. I am friends with the most incredible human beings to walk this planet. I prayed so hard the entire year leading up to this that I would be able to make friends and just have an incredible experience. And wow, did Heavenly Father deliver. Truly the most magical semester. At this time, my degree had now switched because I took all my issues to the dean and I said, I have taken all of these education classes and they do not transfer to any other degree, and I want to do sex education, which you guys don't offer. I'm going to need you to work with me. I want to curate my degree to be the classes that I want. I was told no a good 2 times, so don't think that if you want to do stuff like this, you're just going to be told yes immediately. You really gotta push for what you want, but behind one no is somebody else's yes. And I had to write up like a 5-page single-spaced paper of exactly what I wanted my degree to do for me and why I needed to take these sex education classes in 3 different majors, in family therapy, some in public health, and then also in education. I had to get approval to join these programs to be at these senior level classes, but now at this point I just needed some more credit hours to make up for the fact that my degree was worth nothing. I ended up taking a bunch of sex ed classes, human sexuality, teaching sex ed, body image, weight management, anything to deal with human sexuality. I took those classes and was doing research in Switzerland and just once again rediscovering myself. This is my 3rd time abroad and I am just so grateful for how my life turned out. That door may have closed, but boy did that window open and I leapt through it. And I'm so glad that I did. So in March, I was walking the streets of Geneva, shopping in France, saying bonjour to people around me, just having a great time living abroad again. And now we are March 4th, 2024. I'm sitting alone in my room in an apartment that I absolutely love with my pole in my kitchen, incredible friends, a diploma from UVU, doing what I want to be doing with tons of prospects of projects that I am so excited to do. You guys, this is just the beginning for me. You are going to see me in a lot of different capacities, and I'm just so excited about what life has to offer right now. I have no idea what's next. I truly don't. I don't know. I may be moving to Japan at the end of the year. I applied for a job there, so we'll find out in a couple weeks if that falls through, or if I stay in Utah and do a bunch of stuff here. I don't know. No, so don't ask what's next for me, because there's about 20 things that I'm doing right now, but I can only see about 2 steps in front of me. I mean, is there anything more joyful in life than seeing where God takes you? I mean, wow. What a journey. In just the last 8 years, the amount of ups and downs that I have had, but I'm so grateful for where I am right now, here talking to all of you, doing another passion project. There is also 1,000,010 things that I didn't even get to talk about. My lawsuit, I was sued once. That was exciting. You can tell bullet points of things that have occurred, but our lives are filled with so many different things, which is why I figured somebody get me a mic, because I got a lot of things to say. We can go in so many different directions. We can talk about grief, we can talk about disabilities, pole dancing, church, travel, living abroad, studying abroad, my hatred of college. I mean, there's just endless options. And I'm just so excited to be here with all of you to discuss it all. I hope that with this episode you got to know me a little bit more, that you hung on for the entire ride. As cheesy as it sounds, life is what you make it. Again, Hannah Montana raised me. What can I say? Her words still ring true today. I really believe that the attitude that you have and you bring to life shapes the way that you live it. I want my story to be full of so much joy and happiness and laughter, and that can be found even through chronic pain, through losing things that you thought were sure things, and you're having your dreams just splatter right in front of you, or at least when it seems that way. At the end of the day, there is one thing that I want to be remembered for, and that is having an extraordinary, ordinary life. That quote is from my favorite movie, About Time. There is so much beauty around us to be found in any circumstances, and I truly believe that. I really do. If there is anything that you need to know about me, it's that. And with that, thank you for listening to my thoughts on life, because this has been Life According to Nikki.